Morning, everyone. I'm Carl. I'm the Interactive Experience Director here at Sitback. I'd like to kick off this morning by acknowledging all of you who are joining us today for the webinar. Wonderful to have so many curious minds joining us today, and I hope that we can share some of our knowledge and insight about the way that we approach website optimization. Obviously, we're meeting online. My colleagues from Sitback and I are spread out across Sydney and Canberra. I'm personally dining in from Glebe in Sydney, which is on Gadigal land in the Eora Nation. It's a really beautiful place just to the west of the CBD, flanked by the water to the north of what is now known as Rozelle Bay. And it's a place where, after a long day's work, I like to spend some time in the evening walking, usually with my dog, out past the water, through the trees, listening to the bats circling around above me, the water rippling, the leaves rustling, and it brings a lovely sense of calm after a hectic day. And occasionally, at low tide, if you're unlucky, you'll catch the smell of dalgal, which is the Dharawal word for mussels, which were a really important source of food and trade for the Gadigal people, the traditional custodians of this land. I'd like to offer my respects to any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander people on the call today, and I pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging leaders. So let's get underway with a little bit of housekeeping. 20-minute session today, trying to keep it light and informative. There will be time for Q&A at the end, hopefully. So as you go, if you can just drop any questions into the Q&A widget within Zoom, and we'll address them later. If we run out of time, or if there's additional information, resources we think would be useful for you, we'll share answers via email afterwards. We are recording, and we'll share the slides and the recording with you all as well. So, Sitback, who are we? If you don't know us, we are a human-centered design and development agency. We work with clients in financial services, not-for-profit, education, tourism, and government to transform their existing websites, often underperforming websites, into growth engines, trying to make the most of their digital investments, improving the experience for their customers, and helping them gain recognition within their businesses along the way. When the websites are no longer viable and need to be rebuilt, we handle that too. We tackle kind of complex user journeys, third-party integrations, and security and accessibility that come with those sorts of sectors that we work with. We are also very proudly a certified B Corporation, which means we are independently verified to meet the highest standards of social and environmental performance, transparency, and accountability. We're part of a global B Corp movement who are transforming the worldwide economy to benefit all people, all communities, and our planet. And here at Sitback, over 50% of the work we do is what we call for purpose. So we're actively seeking to work with charities, not-for-profits, and commercial organizations that have a positive impact on our world. Make things better by making better things, is what we like to say. Presenting to you today, we have three members of our fantastic team. So we've got Lindsay is our Client Services Director, bringing 25 years of experience of managing high-stakes digital projects, 13 of which have been here at Sitback. So she knows what it takes to turn a good website into a great one. We've got Rebecca, our Head of Experience Design, over a decade of designing award-winning user interfaces. She's led design for iconic brands such as the Sydney Opera House, and she combines behavioral science with that research-led design to create websites that work as good as they look. And then, of course, Fiona, she's our Data and Insights Manager, responsible for turning raw data into actionable insights. She has a background in marketing and account management too, so she understands firsthand the impact that the numbers can have on a business, and a big believer in experimentation, innovation, and the power of clarity, both figuratively and literally, as you'll come to see in today's session. So while we're here, I'm willing to bet that your website took considerable effort to create, and it should be your business's hardest working asset, whether it's converting customers, communicating information, or building trust around your brand. It should be helping your business grow. All too often, though, we see clients come to us because their performance is lagging, which means they're not seeing the return on the investment that they expect or that they need. And since you're joining us here today, I would assume that most of you feel there is at least a little bit more that could be squeezed out of your website too. So in today's session, we're going to share how to turn everyday website hygiene and into a competitive advantage for you through optimization. But what's the risk of not doing this, right? Why should we care about this hygiene and this optimization? Well, because 88% of website users are less likely to return to a website after a poor experience. Because mobile users are 5 times more likely to abandon a task if the website hasn't been optimized for their mobile device. And because when your users judge your website, and they will judge your website, your credibility is determined largely by the aesthetics. So today we're going to look at what we mean when we say optimization, what optimization opportunities there are for you to leverage, and then finally, where we recommend you start based on what you've done up until this point. And so I'll now hand it over to Beck to get us stuck into the detail.
Awesome. Thanks, Carl. Nice to see everyone today. So in terms of thinking about optimization, I guess something that we always talk about and we're always thinking about is that design is never done. So this is something we always communicate to anyone that we work with. There's always something to improve and optimize, and that might be only shifting the needle a little bit on a CTA, trying to improve those percentages, but it might be also looking at how you want to optimize the complete journey as well. But there's always something that you want to try and perfect, improve, and optimize. Thinking about it from Sitback's perspective and in our experienced design team, I guess we want to make sure that we're making those informed decisions so we can be really confident in those decisions that we make. So really we do this, as Carl kind of said, within my team, it's combining behavioral science. So thinking about principles, heuristics, known behaviors, and then combining that with creativity and our experience in creating effective and beautiful UIs. And also data, so using knowledge that we have on current behaviors and thinking about how we might predict future behaviors to improve and optimize a website. As Carl's already alluded to, across the team, we've got a number of years' experience in how we do this. To delve into that a little bit more, I guess as a team, we're actually founded on psychology, so organizational psychology. So this means that all of our work is really underpinned by really understanding how humans behave and how they normally behave and how we're making decisions. And then as part of our UI process, we're taking that information both from a qualitative and quantitative perspective and trying to balance that with both that technical understanding to make sure that we're really making a aesthetically pleasing, usable, feasible interface. So not something that just looks good and something that just works, trying to combine the both. And then last but definitely not least is the fact that data really is our North Star. So we want to take the guesswork out of optimization and making sure that we really drive that business results, which Fiona will talk to a little bit more later. You've probably all seen this before, but I guess it's just important to think about how we approach it from Sitback's perspective is that we do have a standard way of working and how we tackle any program of work, specifically with optimization and all of our products. And we utilize the double diamond approach. I'm sure you've probably all seen this before. But specifically thinking about optimization, it obviously usually comes, as Carl's already talked about, like towards the end of that process, where you've already got a product or a website that you're therefore trying to optimize to improve the performance and also the user experience to achieve better engagement or conversion rates. But really the optimization process does almost like kind of smaller iteration of the discovery phases to understand what the problems are and what we're trying to optimize, defining where we actually want to solve the right problem and making sure that we're focusing on the right problem that's going to help in terms of pushing those targets. And then obviously finally designing and developing a solution to that problem. So it's almost like a little iteration of the end-to-end process from a double diamond approach. Again, thinking about it from our experience design perspective, we usually have 3 main goals when we're thinking about optimization. 1, improving the experience for organizations and its users by creating those intuitive interfaces. Improving reporting. It's not just important to make those optimizations. From our perspective, our goal really is to be tracking and measuring those as well to make sure that in the future we've got standards that we can hold ourselves against and see how things have improved. And then lastly, thinking about how we want to improve website outcomes. So ultimately, your website can help you achieve whatever goals it has. And I guess something else that's really important to highlight, and again, Fiona will talk to this a little bit later, is that there are other goals within optimization that sit outside of driving sales. So it might not necessarily be about conversion. You also want to be providing those frictionless experiences. And optimization goals, they don't have to be revenue based. It can be to do with other items, specifically with your goals on website. And again, Fiona will talk about the different types of optimizations that you might want to have a look at a little bit later. And lastly, from me, I guess, similar to what Carl alluded to, there's obviously positive impacts if you do in terms of optimizing your website around engagement, conversion, looking at obviously improved UX, and then revenue potentially. But obviously on the flip side of that, there are negatives if you do not optimize. So a couple of ones that we've got on the screen here. So thinking about your brand or organizational reputation, thinking about completion of desired tasks, and also your website SEO ranking. And just for example, I guess a couple of other stats. So research by Orbit Media showed that 70% of businesses that are failing to update their website regularly see a drop off in traffic within 2 years. So without those continuous optimizations, websites become quickly outdated, and then it kind of leads to that declining engagement. And similarly, HubSpot found a similar thing. So websites that aren't updated and aren't regularly optimized have a higher bounce rates compared to those that are refreshed and looked at optimized at least once a year. So now that we know why important it is and how important it is and the goals that we have specifically behind it, I'll pass over to Fiona, and she's going to start to talk to you about where you actually start when you're optimizing your website.
Thanks, Beck, for that introduction into what we mean by optimization. As she said, I'll now kind of take you guys through, I guess, where you kind of start when you are thinking about optimizing your website. So the first step towards, I guess, any on-site optimization is really ensuring you have a clean, strong base to start from. This might mean that you need to conduct more kind of maintenance activities prior to kicking off any stream of optimization work. You really want to kind of build that peace of mind to then work up to those greater levels of business growth. This might mean improving the CMS of your site so it's more manageable for your internal team and functionally a bit simpler to carry out some of those optimization activities. There might be load issues on your site that need to be addressed to improve your kind of overall performance scores, and some of this technical monitoring can be done through tools like New Relic. Your overall user experience might be quite dated and might actually be in need of a bit of an overhaul to kind of bring it into a more modern age. And finally, there might be kind of little to no on-site analytics implemented on your site. And analytics really is vital to understanding the success of any optimization work that's conducted on your website. So these areas are all pieces that can be addressed through kind of ongoing website support and optimization, more of those maintenance and hygiene activities as well. So once you have your basics in order, it's really important to understand how you're defining success of that website. So as I mentioned, it's important to have your analytics in order to measure success, but it's also important to define what you want users to do when they come to your site so you can start to develop those measurement systems for any optimizations that you're going to introduce. So successful user engagement will really differ kind of site by site, but ultimately you need to consider what you want someone to do when they come to your website. And in this instance, we kind of refer to this as a desired action or a website goal. As Beck mentioned, not all desired actions and not all kind of website goals need to be sales-based. There's many types of sites where you want a user to be doing something other than making a purchase. To give you some examples of desired actions for both kind of those transactional and non-transactional sites, you might be looking at a completion of a desired task. Let's say someone's, creating an account on your website, and I guess in this instance, to kind of monitor success of this, you'd be looking at the conversion rate to account creation, which is just looking at the share of kind of total traffic to trigger that on-site goal. If you are looking at purchases, you will, be looking at that kind of successful user purchase on the website. And again, looking at, conversion rates to purchase. You might be interested in people downloading files on your website. Say you have an information packet. And to monitor kind of success of this, you'd be looking at, the share of page traffic that is triggering the download where that page is being housed. And finally, you might be more interested in kind of gathering leads. And in this instance, maybe you have a contact us form and you want to be looking at the form completion rate. So you can start to understand where people are kind of dropping off in that form so you can optimize that journey. So once you understand how you're defining success of your website, you can start to monitor some of those data signals that might point towards kind of a poor user experience. This is really where you'll start to pinpoint those kind of initial areas for kind of data-driven website optimization. So as Beck mentioned, good design is never done. We never want to set and forget an experience. The digital environment changes rapidly, and so do user expectations and the way they might interact with your website and digital touchpoints. Using data to drive your optimizations really ensures you're not just, optimizing for optimization's sake, but really understanding where there might be a real user problem that needs to be addressed. This is why we use data, both qualitative and quantitative, to really drive those optimizations that we're putting forward for our clients. We have, a simple kind of 5-step cycle for uncovering and developing these optimization recommendations. And this is something that, you guys could take away and kind of bring into your own internal teams as well. The first step is really around identifying the problem. So this is where, you might have a signal in your data that might point towards a particular problem area. Let's say, for example, that you've observed your kind of signups on your website maybe drop by 5% for 2 months in a row. Next, you really kind of want to drill down into this to really understand kind of that full complexity of the issue, or, you also might even kind of rule it out as an issue at all. So for example, you might dig into the data and uncover that the drop in signups is really due to maybe a retargeting campaign that you've had running that's concluded. And, that might mitigate the need to kind of progress further. Or you might find that the drop in signups is due to a change in the way that users are kind of navigating your website away from pages that had that clear CTA for signups. So once you kind of understand the full breadth of the issue, you can really kind of distill that analysis down into kind of those actionable insights that will form the recommended optimization. So I guess, in our example, let's say, that change is due to that navigational behavior issue, and then we might want to introduce those CTAs on some additional areas on the site to try to improve that conversion rate. The optimization phase is really where you're rolling out those proposed changes. And finally, you really want to kind of monitor the site so you can see if any of those changes that you're making are making any improvements. And it kind of starts that optimization cycle over again once you've identified another potential problem area. So as mentioned earlier, when starting kind of any website optimization, you need to have your foundations in order. So for your website analytics, this means that you need to ensure kind of first and foremost that you have robust data capture on your website. You should have clearly defined KPIs, clearly defined success metrics, really comprehensive event tracking so you know what people are actually interacting with on your website. Also calling out, you really need to have correctly implemented systems. So you're capturing clean data, storing it appropriately, and also managing it ethically. Robust data capture kind of really is that vital piece to monitoring the success against your business's objectives and KPIs. At Sitback, we recommend, the Google Analytics suite, but there's many analytics tools that you can use, if you don't want your data housed in that kind of Google ecosystem. User experience monitoring is a crucial kind of extra layer that provides additional insights into how the site is performing and what users are doing. We utilize Microsoft Clarity, as this is a free tool that provides you with really rich insights into where users might be frustrated. It really provides a bit of a qualitative layer through heat maps and session recordings, and it gives really deeper insights into customer journeys that people are undertaking on your site. We kind of like to look at this as J4 gives you kind of a grade on your homework, and Microsoft Clarity is really telling you exactly what you got wrong. Finally, you need to have a regular kind of reporting and insights cadence so you can monitor your data and really pick up on those signals that might point towards issues. It's about being more proactive than reactive. You might have a dashboard in Looker Studio or Power BI or another business intelligence tool that you're kind of checking more regularly. You could have more kind of detailed insights reports with more commentary. Or, you might be doing more kind of like deep dive quarterly reporting to understand trends and seasonality and how it impacts your website KPIs in slides or PowerPoint. So I guess, if you kind of take anything away from this section, it's really just, to have any kind of successful optimization activity, you need to have your hygiene in order and those systems in place to be able to really determine the return on investment for any optimizations that you make in the future. I'll now hand over to Lindsay to walk you guys through how you can understand kind of where you're at on your journey of optimization maturity.
Thanks, Fiona. So where are you on your journey? As a client service director, I do work across a lot of our key clients, and those clients are all at various stages of maturity. So we've categorized them into kind of three broad personas. Those are emerging, they are evolving, and they're established. So in terms of clients, we've got some at that end of the spectrum and emerging, where they're not really using the data for the decision making. They've got basic tools such as GA4 set up, but the tracking is out the box. And it's often siloed across their technology. And then we've got clients who are using the data for decision making and for prioritizing their activities. And they're using GA4, but they are using tools like Clarity, Hotjar, and they've got some integration between their systems. But often the integration between the systems is incomplete, and then that leads to fragmented data and duplication issues. And then at the other end, we've got established clients who've got a mature data strategy where data collection, management, analysis are all directly linked to their overall business objectives. So they're making faster, more confident decisions. So those are kind of like three broad personas. And now we're going to look at what their primary goals are and what we would recommend as their next steps to achieve them. So meet Emily. She is the brand manager for a small retail business. Her primary goal is to make simple, actionable improvements on our website and have a consistent way of measuring and reporting the impact of the changes that she's making. So for Emily, our recommendation would be, first up, let's do an audit of your existing site, look at where the key issues are, and also look at where we can make improvements. Next, we develop a data strategy, so that making sure that she's capturing all the most important information that are aligned with her key success metrics. And then we'd suggest that she integrates her Shopify data with the on-site behavioural data that she's already capturing in GA4. Finally, we'd create a dashboard for Emily so she can monitor and report on the KPIs so she can start to make data-led decisions to improve her marketing efforts. Next, we have Jason Yang. He's a digital marketing manager in a mid-sized SaaS company. And his goal is to get a deeper understanding of customers' pain points and to take a more strategic approach to making improvements on his site. So first up, with Jason, we suggest that he migrates his data into a single source of truth so that he can really improve his data analysis. Then we look at strengthening the integration between his tech stack so that he's no longer doing any kind of manual interference with stitching the content for his reporting. We'd also give him a dashboard to monitor his customer journeys so he shifts away from sort of reactive fixes to more insightful optimizations. We'd also support Jason to become more proficient with his A/B and CRO testing. So he isn't just running tests on small changes such as text or color changes on CTAs, but he's developing a more kind of complex suite of changes that ladder up to improving a particular feature or layout. I want to share a real world example with you where one of our clients wanted to improve engagement and conversion of their credit card applications. And for making optimizations and running a program of A/B testing, we were able to see a 43% uplift in credit card application starts and 57% uplift in completions. So it's really powerful when you move to a more sophisticated form of testing. And finally, we have Sophia. Sophia Martinez, she's the Director of Digital Strategy for a global financial services firm. And she has got a very sophisticated toolkit. It's all fully customized. Our systems are all integrated, and she's got a unified customer view. She's running regular experiments, but she wants to use predictive insights and large-scale personalizations to really remain competitive and promote growth. So the work that we do with Sophia is creating an agency village. So that's where we collaborate between partners such as media, brand, data science, SEO partners, and we're all focused on a shared strategy to create an environment where the team's comfortable to test, learn, and adapt together. So the end goal of this kind of iterative process really feeds in and creates a backlog of ongoing optimizations that Sophia would then review each quarter, ideate with the team to agree the next kind of battleground or focus area, and then the test plan, test design, test implementation process would kick off. So after this session, we're going to invite you to complete a self-assessment checklist. And that will help you identify where to focus your activities based on your strengths and weaknesses. So we'll send you a link to the checklist in a follow-up email. And before I hand back to Carl, I just want to give you a final takeaway and ask you to remember 3 things, if nothing else. Your website is your biggest hidden ROI driver. Hygiene, data, and user experience go hand in hand, and your optimization journey should begin today. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Lindsay and Beck and Fiona, for sharing your thoughts with us all today. We are running pretty tight to our half-an-hour slot, so we will try and wrap things up for those that need to drop off. Thank you for joining us today. Like I said at the beginning, we will be sharing all of this content with you via email afterwards. If you've got other questions that come up, in mind when you check out of here, or you want to swap tips with us, we'd love to hear from you. Contact details are on the screen for you there. Floor's open to a quick round of questions. So if you've got any bubbling away in your brain right now, feel free to drop them into the Q&A box. We have one from Jan, who asks, in terms of real-world SEO performance, how critical is it to optimize metrics like first contentful paint and largest contentful paint? These often require significant effort to improve. Yes, they do. And many large sites don't seem to prioritize them. If that's the case, is it truly worth the effort for anyone? Anybody on the panel want to jump in on that one?
I think that, Jan, you're absolutely right. There is significant effort to improve. And we face that all of the time because we do pay attention to those metrics, and we will often take a pragmatic approach. So it is really important to improve the performance because good performance means good usability, which means that people will engage with your site. So it's really kind of looking at the effort based on and what the outcome is going to be. If you're only going to shift the needle a tiny, tiny bit, often we might go, actually, it's not worth it. But we'd always make sure that all the low-hanging fruit is dealt with, and then we kind of move on to those kind of bigger ticket items. And often, depending on the client's budget as well and the priorities, we may tackle some of those kind of bigger issues.
Yeah, a good point. The low-hanging fruit thing is the thing I think we see quite often. The core web vitals are a great measure to help determine where you're at and what things can be optimized. And came about because Google wanted a way to measure UX, which is a tricky thing to be able to measure, right? But invariably, we see it's all laddering up to page speed and overall performance. And invariably, we see that things like image size, video size are the first things to tackle that make such a dramatic improvement to the performance of a page. Using WebP, WebM file types that are optimized for the modern web makes such a big improvement. Things like concatenating your resources, your JavaScript, your CSS, minifying those files, relatively straightforward to do in comparison to other changes related to the core web vitals, and make a big difference. I think when it comes to those specific measures, FCP and LCP, clarity that Fiona was talking through is a great use case for helping identify the impact they're having on people's on-site experience. And ultimately, it's what you're trying to achieve with the site, right? Do you even need this great big hero banner? Do you need a big carousel on your homepage? Do you need that autoplay video? Is that actually benefiting the users that are coming to your site? And is it helping them achieve the tasks that you and them want them to complete on the website? So I think if you've taken care of all of the low-hanging fruit, then it's absolutely worth looking at how you can improve those things, because ultimately that is an improvement to the on-site experience and your page speed, and therefore Google's opinion of your experience. And so it will affect your rankings there. Otherwise, there's bigger fish to fry. You're very welcome, Jan. All right, everyone. It looks like that's us for today. Thank you again for coming. Enjoy the rest of your, what is a rainy Wednesday here in Sydney. And we'll share the content of today's session with you, as well as other things that are happening in the future in due course. Have a good one.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.